fair and saying, listen, I know things happen on the rides. The thing is, when they happen, we're not really told how long it's going to take. We're not really told timely. And that leaves us to guess. It leaves us to hear on social media. And that's important for us to be able to be more upfront, more transparent with the riders so they can make decisions, hopefully before they get on a train. But if not, if they're on a train, at least so they could know whether they need to make a call, whether they're being picked up, whether they're late for a meeting. If it's a 5-minute issue and we're ready to go, that's one thing. If it's a half-hour issue, they need to know that too. And that's all they've asked for. They've actually been very fair with me in my one-on-ones with the riders. And this is what we've been doing. It's probably later in the PowerPoint, but it has to do with the countdown clocks that we're doing. It has to do with improving announcements, trying to give it came from a customer actually where one of them said, you know, it's one thing you get me to Penn Station, but then I get to Penn and then the subways are having issues. You know, so we started to work with transit to be able to, and I said I don't want it just as the doors are opening at Jamaica or closing. People need to know as they're approaching so they can determine if they should get off, go to Atlantic, things of that nature that actually is meaningful information so they can actually plan their trip. And again, the nice thing about that is it came from a customer. It makes a lot of sense. And what we're trying to do as well is, and been working with transit, is if you're on the subway approaching Atlantic, get them to announce if our trains are running late. I see it myself when I was coming from 2 Broadway. You know, you kind of run down the stairs and you hope it's still in the platform. And if we could tell people that the train is left, it's much better for everybody that we're not running and putting yourself at risk. Something else that noticed in conversation is that obviously we all want to get the service back up as quick as possible. The thing is that we need to go back once we've restored service temporarily and make sure that we tackle what caused that initial issue, not just get it running and then wait for it to fail again, because that's one of the things that these components that were failing repetitively, wanted to make sure that we tackle the actual cause of the initial thing, not just the you know, I guess, what's that called,
symptoms.
It's the symptom, right. Right, and it's pretty basic, but I mean, I think the focus has always been keep the trains moving, and when the capital project comes in, we'll take care of it. This is saying, again, take care of the cause, and we will actually find savings by doing this. So some of the areas, you know, looking at past history, and like I said in my short period, the switch failures are a challenge. In 2017, 205 of them. And notice that 44% of them were at 10 switches. And some of the ones that we tackled first were obviously not only the ones that failed the most, but at some of the worst locations, right by Jamaica, meaning it impacted many lines, every line, with maybe exception of Port Washington. And some of these were not scheduled until the next capital program. We said, no, we're going to take care of them, we're going to take care of them now. Again, minimizing response needs, minimizing the delays as a result, and we said we're going to take advantage of this construction season and do it. And that's what the teams have been doing. They went out there and I think they did switch 11, they did switch 25, and we're going to keep going until we do all of these. And then we've even added some other switches as we continue to find more ideas. It's, again, treating with urgency. It's not waiting until later. And it's not wasted, because these switches, these upgrades are not just Band-Aids. They're actually, in some cases, ripping out. Switch 25, which is over by Jay, I believe, is one where we had drainage issues. So they went in and they took out all the muck and they put in new catch basins. And you know, so now the switch has not only been replaced, but it's also been on a much more solid ground. So tackling, again, the root causes of these things. Oh, okay, I got ahead of myself, right? I don't know if well, we don't have photos here, but I've had some photos in the office. If you're interested, at some point I'll show them to you. Joint inspections and upgrades to track circuits. Again, like switches, 370 track circuits that cause 36% of our track circuit failures. So we're tackling those. this is another area which actually, you know, they were working on and they should be very proud of, but I took it a step further. 417 trains delayed due to vehicles on tracks. They were already planning to install safety delineators at the 65 grade crossings where we had parallel roads. And they were going to do it by the end of the year, 2018. I said, well, it seems like very simple work. Let's prioritize it, let's get it done. They did those 65 by Memorial Day. And that was important because that's one of the things that, if you've heard, the past incidents of people driving onto the tracks, and this is not the ones that go around the gates, these are the ones that erroneously turn, the navigation apps, right? And so we know whether it's poor visibility, whether it's an inexperienced driver, whether it's somebody who is having difficulty seeing, whether it's you know, like I said, inclement weather, or the apps. These delineators were 4 foot high, they're reflectorized. We have pavement markings that are reflective as well, and then we also carried the road markings across. Now we line striped it. But I said, so let's finish those 65 on Memorial Day, and you know what? We might as well do all 296 of our grade crossings, and we're going to, and we're going to do them before the end of the year. So we went from 65 only to all 296. Low cost, big win, and it's making a difference. My understanding is that at any grade crossing where we've had these delineators, we've not had any cars on the tracks at this point so far. Right, and then one step further, building on what Bridges and Tunnels have been doing, collaborating with Waze. We sat down with them and we have them showing on their navigation app our grade crossings, and it's showing it as a hazard and it's highlighting it to the drivers. My understanding is that this is the first in the nation where anyone's partnering with the navigation app to highlight those at-grade crossings. So I know Metro North is following suit as well. Again, best practices. It makes sense to go across the MTA family to do this. And then we'll continue to work with other navigation companies to try and continue this. But this just builds on what we're doing with you know, grade crossing safety. And if you go all the way back to the 417 trains that were delayed, you know, it gets to not only safety of the driver, safety of the employee, safety of the passenger, but then it gets to reliability of their commute, right? Obviously, keep cars off the tracks. It's a huge thing for everybody. And then obviously last year was a tough one. 2,600 trains delayed due to weather-related events. And while some of them were doozy weather events, you know, we also knew that, you know, we have weather, and you know, that's one of the, from my perspective, I like 4 seasons. It's one of the benefits of living in the Northeast. So we needed to be prepared, and that's another thing that we sat down and we wanted to, again, accelerate the work that we know has value, and take care of things now in advance of hurricane season, in advance of winter storms. All right, so last year there were so many storms with winds, high winds, and trees on tracks. The team had originally planned to do 90 miles, and then the subsequent 90 miles would have been the second year. We're accelerating that. We feel it's important to just take care of it now. And then this 180 miles will complete the full cycle of our system, and then we could start on a new cycle. But I didn't want to wait a second year. So this is ongoing, and again, it's a proactive measure in advance of the severe storms. Right? Switch covers. The original plan was to do 20 this year, 20 next year, and 20 the following year. Said we should do them all. My understanding is we had one as a pilot, I think, in the Northport area. Really positive benefits from it. We're going to do all 60 of them this year in advance of the winter. All right, it's something they tested, makes sense. Why would we want to wait? So we're accelerating that. Third rail heaters as well. Again, doing 14 additional third rail heaters. And it's just to better prevent and allow us to have a better opportunity to run the system safely, reliably during cold weather. Atlantic tunnel manholes, again, there's an issue with water and salts getting in. Let's just get in there and insulate these manholes.
I just wanted to ask, with all those projects, you said you were able to pull them ahead, or instead of 20, let's just get them all done now. What was the restriction prior to you setting that expectation? Was it capital, or just going back to what you originally said, the mindset of being proactive versus reactive?
It's a little bit of both. The staff that we're using to do this, we're doing other work, but this is a high
So
priority of
reprioritize
work.
it.
So we prioritize this. In some of these cases, they also, like I said, some of the switches that they weren't going to do, they figured it's a capital project, we don't even need to focus on it. But the idea is that these are important, you're going to be pulled to respond to these anyway, let's just take care of it. So the other thing is that part of the July plan will introduce a little bit of the budget needed to do this. MTA headquarters is supporting us, and we're working on those numbers with them right now. It's not a blow it out of the water number. It's a reasonable number, because part of the thing we're doing is trying to be more efficient with staff as well, trying to be more productive, but also target where we bring on people or where we prioritize the work. So it's a combination, but it's a new mindset too. It's to say it just failed twice in a week. Let's take care of it. Let's prevent it. Right? Because you're spending some money to do this, but it's saving the money later when you're responding to an outage. And it seems so basic, but I think what happened is we got into the mindset of this is the way the plan is, these are the constraints, and it is what it is, and we'll face it when it comes. But it just needed to really just change the culture.
Right.
And
That's why it made me ask the question, like, it
Right.
just seemed like such a simple fix, but I didn't know if there was some barrier besides the mindset.
I think
Seems like it's
it
just
was
that.
really culture.
For finances,
and-
I don't know where you pulled the money out of the hat, that was pretty good.
Well, it's like I said, it's a matter of taking existing staff and reprioritizing what they're working on and making sure we tackle the more things that are more prone to failure and tackle them now. This 80 utility poles, I mean, obviously we had the one that went across the main line, I think, and really crippled the system that night, and PSCG came in and we had a meeting with them on all their work, and this is where I pressed them to say, listen, last year I believe they identified these 80 poles as needing to be done. There wasn't a commitment to do them all this year, but working with them, I told them, if you could commit to doing it, we'll give you the flagging resources, we'll give you access. I think they've done 51 of the 80 to date, so this is well underway, and we're going to finish this too. And that's something that, getting PSCG to work with us is very important, and trying to build that relationship with them. M7 door components, right? These were the threshold plates that were causing issues. And I guess that was changed years ago to value engineers, save some dollars. In the end, it was the wrong decision, unfortunately. Have the team accelerate it. We called the suppliers, we called the manufacturers, and we're doing everything we can to accelerate the replacement of those threshold plates. So, because those affect the doors, and when the doors don't work, trains are delayed, taken out of service, it just snowball effect. So again, anything we can do to accelerate these that we're doing. And the car maintenance folks are up for the task. They really realize that this helps them in the end, because then the doors are in much better shape as well. Back to the customers and clear real-time information. I think every station now has the countdown clocks, and the information on them is getting more and more accurate as we're installing the GPS and upgrading GPS on our trains. And I know there were some early things where the numbers were not exactly accurate. It might be 2 minutes out, and actually it would say 1 minute out. But we felt it was more important to get rid of the on-time note. Customers were, one of the things they told me is that they're really fed up with us saying the train's on time when we're using the 5-minute 59-second rule is on time. So by doing this, at least we're being upfront, we're being more transparent. It's interesting, the folks who are monitoring the public feedback, I think it was last week, Hector, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the customers actually tweeted that, yes, the train at Mineola was 10 minutes late, but your countdown clock and your announcements actually said it and allowed me to plan my trip. So she was appreciative that we gave them accurate information. She said, that's all we're asking for, accurate information, even if it's late. So we don't get a lot of positive feedback that way, but that at least shows us that this is important to them, and it's the right direction. So that's why that customer feedback is important to us. I mentioned that the GPS is going to help us to better track the trains, better information to our riders. And really basically, again, back to that basic, letting them make the decision where they need to go. You know, back when I was at DOT, that was always my focus on those travel time clocks that you see on the roadway. If you know that your trip from point A to point B is only 20 minutes and it says it's 45 minutes, you at least can say, I'm going to get off, I'm going to take the Grand Central Parkway, I'm not going to take the LA, you know, at least they're informed, they can do it. And as long as we give it to them timely, we give it to them at the right point, then it lets them take it more into their own control. And I think that's where they get fed up with us too, that they're trapped when we don't give them the right information. Because they don't want to jump off the train if they don't have to. If it's, you know, the worst thing you can do is say, let me get a taxi, and then the door shut, the train pulls out, right? So, important for that. Car cleaning, the comfort of their ride, something that I think a lot of folks made clear to me. And I've seen it too, I'm sure all of you have seen it, right? There's a spill, there's a bathroom issue. It stays that way until the end of the day when the cars are cleaned at the end of the day. So we worked with the unions. We have car cleaners now at Atlantic, we have car cleaners at Huntington, we have car cleaners, I believe, at Ronkonkoma. So we're stationing them at key points in the system at Jamaica so they can, two things, jump on when a train is parked and clean it normally during the day, but also respond when something is spilled. And I did that one day. I was taking the train from Penn back to Jamaica, and I remember calling the 204 and I said, listen, we need car cleaners on such and such a train. And they jumped on and they came with a mop, picked up the, it was like Hawaiian punch, fruit punch or something. And then the train went on its way. And I think, again, this makes a difference, not only just in terms of the standing areas, the seating areas, but also trying to clean the bathrooms better.
Could you do something like that even, because I've seen this on subways where it's, a train pulls into one of the terminals of the subways and cleaners, somebody just gets in, they only do 2 or 3 cars before it's got to go.
Yes.
Can you even do the same thing at Penn Station, like have some cleaners when trains come in the morning, hop in, just mop or something 2 cars, and this way we shouldn't delay anything.
That's our intention. I don't think right now they had any cleaners at Penn, but we can. You know, one of the things I talked about, this is the first step and didn't want to push right now, is whether or not we can actually have folks riding the trains. But I think it becomes a staffing issue. How many hires can you do to keep this, you know, so right now we put that on the back burner. If this works, it's going to be a big improvement to begin with.
That's also why we're here.
Yeah, well,
Eyes and ears right here in this council.
well, the on-train, I mean, mid-route, that's just like a bonus. What really ticks riders off is when the train originates and it's got garbage on it. I had to come in on Saturday, last week, and the train had a Ronkonkoma. It's 5:36 or whatever, still have the debris from last night. And when you look down the yard, and it's gotta be on a Saturday morning, a dozen trains sitting in the yard, at least pull out a clean one for us. One of those 12 has to be clean. And you know, you see with the leftovers from the people coming home from Madison Square Bar the night before, and that's what's frustrating. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great that you might have somebody hop on mid-trip and clean, but it's just, get it out of the yard clean.
Right at
That's
the
what
start
we
of the
do.
day.
That's key.
Why don't we take notes, guys? 'Cause
Okay, I'm
we
sorry.
interrupt- I know, but we'll never get through. But take the notes, because you want
Yeah.
to ask these questions.
So something not on the slide, but is out there now, and we're continuing to build on it, is we installed in 10 cars right now as a pilot, holders with wet wipes in the bathrooms, as an opportunity to, if it really needs it and somebody needs to go, they have an opportunity to just clean it a little better and use it. Again, it's a pilot, but I think it could go a long way, because I've seen some of the bathrooms and, you know,
Unusable.
it's a positive.
Try not
thing.
to.
So they're on our M7s right now, and they're scattered throughout, but we're gonna continue to install them and see how they work out. Station cleaning too, you know, it's the same philosophy. If it looks clean, I think people treat it better. And when it's not clean, people don't treat it well. So what I've been trying to instill in the folks, the station folks, the branch line managers, is that treat it like your house, right? You're inviting guests into your house. You know, you don't want them to come in, as you say, in the morning, it's filthy right off the start. So we're trying to build that in, and, you know, to support them is we increased, and we're getting them new equipment and giving them the means to enhance the cleaning. So this, you know, we'll monitor this, and we'll keep an eye on it, and we'll see how the customers feel about that too. Something that has been a success so far, you know, is something that the customers all talk about. We pay a lot of money for a monthly ticket, and we don't think we're getting the service. And, you know, when you're delayed, you don't give us the money back. So I was in my own head figuring, how can we provide more value to the customer with the monthly ticket? And we had a construction season, there's service changes as a result, but there's so many good places to still visit. So we wanted to, and I'm assuming this is, Hector, the summer Saturdays? Let me see. Well, this is the hard working men, this right. Obviously, I need to make sure the staff have the ability and support, you know, and I told them, the goal is to get to be world-class. We're the busiest, but that's not, you know, my goal is to be world-class. It's great to be busiest, world-class is what we need. Well, when I was thanking the customers, busy construction, the summer Saturday program that we launched, we sat down and we said, how can we add value? And you know, I think most of you who live on Long Island know that there's a love affair with the car, right? And if you're gonna go with your friends as couples, or you're gonna go somewhere, and the train's not always the most convenient schedule, you're gonna hop in the car and you're gonna drive. So what we said is, if you're a monthly ticket holder, and you wanna go on a Saturday, we looked where we had capacity, you could take up to 4 people and not just children for that $1. And we turn your monthly ticket into a system-wide pass. And we saw a huge uptick since this launch, we saw a lot of appreciation from the customers. And it's just a way to say, you know, to our monthly ticket holders, we're adding value. And we did a review before we did it. We don't expect to lose money. We expect to actually, even with the folks who may have bought a ticket, we expect to see a huge increase, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a huge increase. We did not offer it for the morning to Greenport, the morning to Montauk, and we didn't offer it obviously for the special events like US Open and things like that. But we're doing it to Mets Willets, we're doing it to anywhere else in the system, and it's been a very big success so far. I think this is kind of all repetitive, proactive, right? Interesting. And this is important because this allows us the opportunity to now tackle the larger projects, the ones that actually improve capacity down the road, right? Modernize the system. It gives you time, if you don't do the proper corrective and preventive maintenance, by the time you get to modernizing it, you know, you don't have any customers left, right? So this is really just kind of telling them we're looking at everything we do, and I've tried to remind staff, I'm going to question everything, but don't take this as an affront on what they've done, because I know, same thing I had at DOT, this was the process, this was the procedure, and it worked well for 30 years, but times change. And I'm not saying that what you did for the last 10 years is wrong, but we can do better. And so this is, you know, I'm trying to reinforce to people, I'm not out to find issues where I'm, you know, penalizing them. My thing is, how can I help them as a manager, as a president, do the job better and serve the customers better? And that's kind of the philosophy I'm doing. Obviously, if they're blatant about something, that's a different story. But if it's something that we've told them to do it this way for 30 years, then it's just a matter of helping them change the culture. So, you know, that's kind of the basis of trying to rebuild confidence from the public, and I'm hoping that as it progresses, they will see, and I hope that you guys see, some improvement over time. I do know that there's still cases where obviously we're not hitting the mark, but that's just gonna be constantly reinforcing it with staff. And let them know that we're serious about it, because every day I walk past the pledge and I say about these pledges, you know, everything I'm saying here, we signed on to, I forgot, 2014 or whatever it was. What we need to do is to actually fulfill that pledge, and that's what we're going to do.
If I can ask, I don't know how much time you have, but if I can ask you two things.
Yeah.
to start with, and then we just have a couple of questions
Sure.
in areas.
That's why I'm here.
First, two issues. One, how do you see our role in working with you as council members? You would like to know how you view us and what you think you expect from us. And secondly, if you could discuss, which we never hear much about, but your complaints on the cleaning up of the right of way. We do hear a lot of, I see a television on the track over there.
Yep.
I haven't seen any of the,
And I've been pounding my
So,
staff to tackle
those
that
are
part.
two issues, if I could ask,
All right.
if you could talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. So, the role I hope we have is a strong partnership, because you guys are like big eyes and ears for me. I'm trying to be out there as much as I can, but I can't tell, and I'm not on every train, so when I hear that staff tell me messages are being said, and I hear that cleaning is getting better, you know, I need folks who are out there as well to either confirm, or even if it's one-off, just let me know if something doesn't look right, sound right, and we could dig into it. Because what we're doing is it's gotta be constant reinforcement, otherwise, if I let up on the gas pedal, I really see it probably just go right back to where we were, right? If you hear, or you see, or the people you're riding with are not feeling that things are better, I need to know that too, and if you're hearing positive things, I'd like to hear that too, because then again, it lets me know I'm going in the right direction, right? I think, Mark, you and I talked about maybe having more frequent meetings, and everyone's schedules are busy, but we should make sure we're doing it. I know myself, I've gotta be a little better at making sure I get information to you guys, because everything is going so fast that I don't always remember to reach out on everything, but I want to. I don't want to surprise anybody, but I hope you guys all know that everything I'm trying to do is really towards the customer and the ridership, because at the end of the day, if we're not making them, giving them what they deserve, then I haven't done the job. And this is not just the commute, it's also how the railroad is within the community, and that gets to the cleanliness of the right-of-way. It was something I was talking with Metro North and Long Island Railroad when I was at headquarters, and now that I'm here at Long Island Railroad, I've been talking with the staff, and they're working on a plan how we can tackle that piece. So we need to obviously tell our own employees and contractors, you take in garbage, you take out garbage. But at the same time, we need a plan where we're going through systematically and walking through and cleaning it up, because again, I think it projects an image that the railroad maybe doesn't care, or it projects an image, and it's not the image that I'm looking for. Let's just leave it at that. So a couple other things that trying to work on, and we've done it already, where we've gotten some local complaints about debris near stations. I told the team, let's tackle them, let's take care of it, so the communities that our stations are in, the tracks are adjacent to, get done, and we've done that several times already, where got a nice response from the folks for responding quickly. But the other thing that we're working on actually with MTA, with real estate, is possibly building off of what we had at DOT, is the Adopt the Highway program. And I'm looking to see if there's an opportunity to adopt a stretch or adopt the station, and that could help supplant and fund some of the daily trash pickup that needs to be done, in addition to cleaning up the heavier debris that you see along the right of way. And there's ways that, you know, again, I'm gonna let them work through the details, but it could be a simple announcement on the train that as you're passing the stretch, you know, cleanup along this stretch of track was funded by X, Y, and Z, right? Or it could be a sign that is on the fence facing the communities, you know, that abut the property that says this stretch has been, cleaning is funded by, again, the local restaurant or whoever
Yeah.
does it, right?
Adopt
Well,
the highway.
again, on the cleanup, it's more than just trash, because like from Freeport going out east, they just replaced the third rail covers. The old ones are all just piled, they're just like, they
That's,
just rip them
that's
off.
the
and they put new ones
mindset
on
that
and
I
work
need
for
to
them.
change to, where, don't just throw it to the side, you know, take it with you. You know, granted, it's hot out there, you need to keep hydrated, take the plastic bottles with you too. Because we're contributing to it, unfortunately, ourselves. So that's the mindset that we're instilling, and I've been pushing on the senior VPs to filter down to them.
Before we get to quick questions, I just wanna, I don't know if you hear these things, so I'm gonna ask our members who, on the way here, face the situation or whatever. And
Okay.
I guess the issue would be, how does that issue get to you or someone to fix it? So maybe Brian can just give a little
Sure,
example.
yeah. So I was traveling out of Hicksville, as I said in my introduction earlier. So I wanted to take the 319, which was just stopping at Jamaica and then express from there. The communication was great that that train was delayed, what time it was gonna be arriving, and I decided to take the 322 local instead, because again, the communication was
From
there.
Hicksville?
From Hicksville. So I jump in the 322, doors shut, we sit there for about, I think it was like 8-9 minutes, the train's not moving, no communication once we're on the train.
Okay.
And then they finally announced at 3:30, we're gonna be held here, this way there could be a passing train to go ahead of us, which was the 319 Express that we were waiting for it to pass. So finally that train pulls up, their doors open up, now everybody who got on the 322 who wanted the Express, we get up and wanna get on that train, the doors are shut. So we see a conductor in the next train, one of the passengers opens up the door and says, "Can you open up the door?" And he simply just shrugs his shoulders. I ended up hitting the call button in the vestibule there, and then it was a few seconds later, the doors opened, and we literally had like 5 seconds, 3 seconds to walk across, and not everybody was able to make it, and then had to get back into the 322. So the communication in advance was good, but when you speak about the real time,
We fell
what's
short.
going on in the moment, we thought we were making the right decision, but it ended up we made the wrong decision because they held the train for this other one to pass, so. Again, it was like halfway there, the advance information was great, but once you're on the train, it was, I don't even know if we didn't say anything or hit that button, if they would have opened the doors. So just examples like that, like how would you want to become aware, or what should we do with the information like that when we experience things?
Well,
like
there's a couple things, I mean, feel free to email me directly if you want. All of the correspondence, all of the, I review them all. I get a lot of actually, citizen emails now, they've all figured out my email, but I respond to them. The ones that have real, issues for me to look into. The ones that just wanna call me a name, I don't necessarily.
that? And I mean, an example like that, I don't expect the president to be able to resolve, but I think it just brings up examples of the effort